Thunderbolts is the only upcoming franchise that isn't a sequel or reboot. The film will be about a team of anti-heroes featuring some already beloved MCU characters. While the film is considered a standalone, every character who will be part of the Thunderbolts team has been introduced in a previous MCU project. Hello and welcome back to our channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you the first look at the Thunderbolts, the new team of anti-heroes and villains that will debut in 2024. This movie will be the finale of Phase 5 and will feature some familiar faces from the MCU as well as some new ones. Thunderbolts plot speculation. The synopsis for Thunderbolts so far is short but sweet. A group of Marvel villains is recruited to go on missions for the government. In many ways, the Thunderbolts team is similar to the Suicide Squad of the DCEU. This is essentially a group of incredibly powerful, morally questionable beings who are given a chance to kind of do some good for once. The Thunderbolts movie will be directed by Jake Schreier and written by Lee Sung-jin. It will be the finale of Phase 5 of the MCU and will be released on July 26, 2024. The movie will follow a team of anti-heroes and villains who are recruited by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, a mysterious and unscrupulous agent who has been appearing in various MCU projects. The team will consist of Bucky Barnes' Winter Soldier, the former Hydra assassin, and Steve Rogers' best friend who is trying to make amends for his past crimes. Yelena Belova, the new Black Widow and Natasha Romanoff's sister, is seeking revenge for her death. John Walker, U.S. agent, the former Captain America who was stripped of his title and S.H.I.E.L.D. after killing a flag smasher in public. Antonia Dreykov, Taskmaster, the former Red Room operative who can mimic anyone's fighting style and be brainwashed by Dreykov, Natasha's enemy. Alexei Shostakov, Red Guardian, the Soviet counterpart of Captain America, was imprisoned for decades and reunited with Natasha and Yelena. Ava Starr Ghost, the former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who gained the ability to phase through objects after an accident and was hunted by the government. The movie will explore the moral dilemmas and conflicts of these characters as they are forced to work together for a common goal that may not align with their agendas. It will also feature some surprises and twists that will shock fans of the MCU. Thunderbolt is the only Phase 5 and 6 movie that's not a sequel or reboot. Planning into Phase 6 will take the MCU long into 2026, and every film except for Thunderbolts will be a sequel or reboot. Whether it is the MCU's take on old movies like the Fantastic Four or a fresh start for a finished trilogy like Captain America: New World Order, these projects all have something in common. For the sequels, the story all hinges on previous projects, while the reboots will depend on audiences wanting to see the MCU's take on already told stories. Some of these projects may loosely fit the definition of an original project, but they are all ultimately connected to previous films. While Thunderbolts will be special in the fact that it's not a sequel or reboot, it is still not a completely original project. All of the characters in the Thunderbolts team have already been introduced to the MCU through past movies and Disney Plus shows. For a film that will show a completely new team-up in the MCU, Marvel likely wanted to make sure that all the Thunderbolts characters were somewhat established to have an invested audience. Understandably, the studio wouldn't want to throw unknown characters into a new team, but it's clear the precedent it's setting for the MCU's future. The MCU's sequel and reboot problem will only get worse, not better. The MCU is always expanding, and the studio will likely continue to bank on sequels and reboots. There are still hundreds of characters who have yet to make their MCU debut, but have already appeared on the big screen in Marvel-affiliated films. Films like 1998's Blade or 2005's Fantastic Four already tell these Marvel characters' origins, but the studio has to find a way to adapt their stories to fit into the MCU. It makes sense that Marvel needs to push out reboots, but these films will take up a lot of the MCU's next phases. Original MCU films are usually needed to introduce new characters into the universe. Phase 4 films like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and Eternals did well, but they didn't garner the same hype as sequels like Spider-Man: No Way Home did because of how unknown the story was. Although there is considerable excitement for the Thunderbolts film, it's ultimately a new team-up of established characters. The MCU has been focusing on transitioning the original Avengers to the new generation, and with these characters now introduced, the studio won't need original films in the foreseeable future. Marvel is taking its biggest risks on Disney+, not theatrical movies. With the introduction of Disney+ shows into the MCU, Marvel can now take its biggest risks outside of the theater. WandaVision may have featured two well-known MCU characters, but the concept was out there and unlike anything the studio had ever done before. Subsequent shows like Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Ms. Marvel featured completely new MCU characters in their original franchises. The MCU shows may have had their issues, but the format allows Marvel to take creative chances that wouldn't usually fit into the movie formula. These shows give the studio a method of introducing new characters into the MCU without investing a whole film in them. In earlier phases, Marvel relied on original films to introduce its characters to the MCU. With this generation now well established, the studio's direction has now turned to sequels featuring these characters or reboots for characters who have already had their stories told. Even if there is a need to introduce a completely unknown hero to the MCU, Marvel now has the Disney+ platform where they can take risks they couldn't in a movie. With the MCU having plenty of reboots and sequels slated with confirmed release dates, it seems like the Thunderbolts movie will be the last original MCU concept for a while. The MCU's Thunderbolts team has more heroes than villains. Though the Thunderbolts' purpose has changed in the comics over the years, what initially made the team interesting was that it was formed by supervillains who were now trying to replace the Avengers. The original Thunderbolts were born from Baron Zemo's attempt to put back together his old Masters of Evil, a group he had formed years earlier to destroy the Avengers. The only reason this new iteration of the Masters of Evil didn't attack the Avengers is that the Avengers had already been destroyed, leaving a power vacuum for the Thunderbolts. In the MCU, however, the Thunderbolts lineup has more heroes and anti-heroes than villains. Considering that Val is so far playing a Nick Fury-type role, and that Falcon and the Winter Soldier's finale began a redemption arc for John Walker, there are only two villains in the Thunderbolts MCU movie lineup, Taskmaster and Ghost. If the majority of the team are already morally questionable super soldiers or reformed, highly trained assassins, then there is no impact on them coming together as a team of superheroes. The Thunderbolts work better when they're closer to DC's Suicide Squad, meaning they're villains who now have to play good guys to defeat a threat. In the MCU, most of the Thunderbolts have already helped save the day at least once. Well, that's that for today's video, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more movie reviews and news. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified of our latest uploads. And let us know in the comments what you think of the Thunderbolts movie. Will it be a hit or a miss? Until next time, this is signing off.